The Channels 24 app means you'll always be in touch with the news. Get the latest local and international stories on the go. And there's our social media platforms for news from around the world. Watch the news live and play videos that matter to you. You can also check the eyewitness section to report events around you. Just click on the eyewitness icon and follow the instructions to upload your content. Channels 24 app, the news at your fingertips.
For you, let's begin at the seat of power in Abuja, the nation's capital. President Muhammadu Buhari today presided over the Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja, a second since he returned from a medical vacation in London. At the meeting, council members say they are confident that the policies of the Buhari administration are working and fast, putting the economy on the right track. Some of the issues discussed include a look into the books of the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board JAM over poor remittance of money to the federal government coffers in the past. But one person that got quite an attention is the Minister of Women Affairs, Senator Aisha El-Hassan, also known as Mama Taraba. I guess you know why. Well, the Nigerian problem may vary, and for different scholars, there is always an agreement, and that's the fact that leadership is at the center of the nation's challenges. At the Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies in Lagos, they say some research they have conducted has highlighted that the problem of Nigeria is a failure of systems which directly influence the kind of leadership we have currently in Nigeria. Professor Anthony Killer, the Director of Studies at a press conference today in Lagos, says the president needs to move fast or to make fast decisions on the agitations across the country, or it may have dire consequences.
If the government is worried about the IPOB, the government needs to make up its mind. If the government feels that the unity of Nigeria is sacrosanct, and that is where they stand, and they feel that Mr. IPOB is a minority, they need to prove it. They need to mobilize the non-IPOB people to raise their voice, either through referendum or through any kind of consultation. What if the IPOB man is a majority? Then they need to deal with that. It is not enough to tell people, shut up and behave yourself. If people say this is what they want, you have to prove an alternative to them or show them the consequence of what they want. I think Nigeria needs to restructure. You see, you're taking me to restructuring. Restructuring is a national issue, it's a constitutional issue, it's a sovereign issue, it's not a government issue. It goes beyond the government. An administration is elected for 4 years to manage the affairs of the day. Sovereignty belongs to the people. That goes beyond any government.
Professor Anthony Killer. Well, let's move to other stories. Senator Dino Melaye's seat in the Senate is shaking, and the senator is trying to fix that. His recall process case is back in court. The senator appealed the judgment of an Abuja division of the Federal High Court, which cleared the way for his recall process to continue. The presiding judge, Nnamdi, decided that the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) acted within its constitutional rights in commencing the process to recall Senator Dino Melaye. The commission kicked off the process after receiving a petition signed by over half of the members from Melaye's constituency. The petitioner said they don't want him. He said the signatures were forged. After Monday's ruling, INEC released a statement that a revised timetable is to be expected on Monday. Everyone, let's get together now to our major story of the day. Let's not hide it. The tension is rising in the land. IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, Abia Operation Python Dance too. These words have gained prominence in recent time, and not for good reasons at all. Now, groups, elders, political leaders are meeting. They're getting together. So, the coalition of Northern Group is calling on Northerners to desist from any reprisal attacks against any Igbo residing in the North so as to maintain a more sustained cordial relationships in the country. The group believes the resurgence of separatist violent agitations by the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB in the southeast is a wider conspiracy to divide Nigeria along ethnic and religious fault lines. As still part of a reconciliation move, the Southeast Governors Forum said they don't have a resolution on the matter just yet and warns against fake news. In the meantime, here is a summary of what they've decided to do today. They've said that they will have an emergency meeting of the forum, which has been scheduled for Friday on the 15th September 2007 to address all issues of security in the region. The governors have also made contact with the Chief of Army Staff on the alleged clash between the military and some of their decisions, some of these things that we're showing you right now on your screen. They're calling also for calm in the region. So the security agencies are adhering with globally stipulated rules of engagements and laws governing their operations. Now, are the agitations within the confines of the law? Now I turn to my guests in the studios to give insight into these issues. We need a way forward. Everyone needs peace. That's no gainsaying at all. Let's get talking, everyone. Someone whom you respect his voice, a historian of repute. Professor Banji Akintoye joins us in the studio here. Many thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you.
An elder statesman also. And Mr. Ikechigu Ikeji, a Lagos-based lawyer and a regular analyst on Channels Television. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Let's begin tonight. Professor, you saw the Civil War. The sort of tension we see in the land today. If you are to sit right in front of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, what are those first words that you perhaps will be telling him right now?
These, Mr. President, are no ordinary days in our history. These are no ordinary days in the life of our country. Some big things are happening. My plea to you is don't let them get out of hand. They could get out of hand. Please don't let them get out of hand. In the interest of all of us, in the interest of our country, in the interest of the black people of the world, to whom Nigeria is an important feature in the world, in the interest of the peace and security of our children in this land. Don't let these situations get out of hand. They could. And what could make them get out of hand is if the people who rule us continue to behave as if they must ram certain things down our throats. It's not going to work.
In that region of the country, I'm sorry to butt in that region of the country 50 years ago, we saw what has become a nightmare in the minds of those who witnessed it. And some people will say that no nation has experienced two civil wars. This time around, what kind of ramification is this narrative that we're seeing, the agitations that we're seeing in the country presently? IPOB, they could be seen as a group, but it's escalating, isn't it?
It is escalating. IPOB is getting more and more popular in the East, and their example is spreading in the country, beyond Igbo land. That's the truth of the matter. Whoever says he doesn't see that is deceiving himself and deceiving us Nigerians. We need to sit down and ask ourselves, how do we move forward now? as a country. It will be good for Nigeria to move forward.
Professor Akintoye,
Yes.
if you were the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria right now, what would you do?
I would call, I would set up the processes towards restructuring the federation.
Is that easy? It seems to be a cliche, but how easy is it practically?
Yeah.
If you are sitting in that seat as a president.
Yes, it is easy. If there is the political will, nothing is impossible. The political will has to be there to do it. If you don't have an agenda that you must push through, that restructuring negates, and you are acting in the interests of the country, and you are ready to do whatever it takes to move the country forward in peace and harmony, nothing is difficult to do.
Professor, you will explain to us from your several years of experience understanding Nigeria's history and some of the issues across the globe. But for a moment, let's get some legal perspectives to some of these issues. Mr. Ikechukwu, from what we've seen on the ground there in Abia State, the governor has declared curfew for 3 days, and there are meetings and consultations going on, legally speaking. What are the ramifications that you've seen in these perspectives? Where the lines are being crossed? What are the issues?
Well, where I see lines being crossed is the military presence in the southeast, in Abia State. There is no need for, in quote, show of force. You are not showing force to an arm-carrying group of people. So that is where I see line crossing. IPOB, as it were, some of us may not like or agree with their rhetoric. When I mean rhetoric, I mean the way they are passing their message. But the fundamental message they are passing is a fundamental right. It is recognized by the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which is a law in Nigeria, domesticated by the African Charter on Human and People's Rights Ratification Act 1993. As a law that Nigeria should follow. The Article 20, sub-article 1 of that charter provides that every people has a right to self-determination. To determine their...
Where's the line between self-determination and secession?
Good. That's a very brilliant question.
That man you're talking about...
Very brilliant question. That man is not secession. Secession is different from self-determination. Secession is even different from separation. A lot of people are misunderstanding secession. Secession simply means unilateral declaration. Unilateral declaration of independence. That is the simple meaning of secession. Unilaterally at your place, you say, henceforth, I am now a state known as Biafra. I am no longer Nigeria. That hasn't happened. That is secession. Separatist movement is a situation where you urge the entity to which you belong to allow you go your separate ways. And how do you achieve that? You achieve it by way of self-determination. Self-determination may not necessarily lead to the success of separatist movement. A yes vote will lead to separation. A no vote will compel them to remain within the country. So before I drop the anchor, let us accept, let us know one fact, that the fact of self-determination is even a constitutional matter. A lot of people just go carry the 1999 Constitution and say it ends there, that there is no mention of self-determination there. They forget that there is a law known as the Fundamental Rights Enforcement Procedural Rules 2009 that has expressly said that the courts and Nigeria shall enforce all the provisions of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, as if it were a constitutional provision. Okay,
just for a moment, let's bring another opinion into this matter. Mr. Dafe Akpedeye, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, joins us now. Mr. Akpedeye, thank you so much for weighing in on this matter. We have Professor Akintoye here, an eminent scholar, and also Mr. Ikechukwu Ikeji, a legal practitioner. Give us an understanding of what this could mean generally for our law. One, the role of the military in a civil environment such as we are.
I'm sure. Thank you for getting me in. I think we need to be very careful here about this rather explosive situation which the country finds itself. We are getting to a brink of where there might be lawlessness and disorder, and if you may, there might be resultant to civil disobedience and perhaps civil war. If you have seen the past, and suffering. Anybody that's the war, like we did 50 years ago, it's a thing of all states and all states very careful and make sure don't judge both the government, those who are cracking self-determination. Now we need to know how we understand.
Okay, it looks like we're having troubles with the audio there. We'll fix it in a moment. Our engineers are working on it, but we'll take a breather. Professor is here with us. Mr. Ikechukwu is here with us. And also, Dafe Akpedeye, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, they're here on the program. Join us again, everyone.
We've agreed also to conduct hearings in the states of the North. Each of the states, there will be a town hall meeting, if you like it, call it public hearing, on all the issues that are going to be brought out and brought up by a technical committee that has been constituted by this body to go and collect all of those issues so that we can subject them to a very robust debate.
We affirmed our commitment to the unity of this country and to issues of constitutional reform that will benefit the whole of Nigeria. So there will be questions about what exactly is the nature of devolution of powers to states, what exactly should be the nature of local governments, and should there be an opportunity for different states to decide for themselves based on local historical conditions how to administer local governments. Issues around fiscal responsibility in general, not just sharing revenues. This idea of the entire revenue of the government being used on payment of salaries. There might be need for constitutional amendments on issues like minimum wage.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. It's the issue in the southeastern region of the country where the clash between the members of IPOB and military officers is running into what has become a curfew now declared by the governor of Abia State. I have with me in the studio Professor Banji Akintoye, a historian, elder statesman, and also a legal practitioner, Mr. Ikechukwu Ikeja, regular analyst here on China's television, and Mr. Dafe Akpedeye, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who's been talking to us from downtown Lagos. Let's continue with the conversation right now. Professor, from the dimension that we've seen this issue now, it's turned into an issue in Rivers State where there is a clash now. People are said to have been killed in somewhat a reprisal. What do you think should be the immediate action of government on this issue?
The federal government of Nigeria under President Buhari owes us the duty now to bring this growing tension to some, to begin to dampen, to begin to douse the tension, and return our country to orderliness and peace. I don't think that he owes us the duty now of suppressing anybody. I don't think that that is the road to go.
Do you think it's
the road to
suppressing anybody, or it's just an activity of the military?
That is, oh, well, the military doesn't act unless the president of Nigeria commands them to act. Don't let us make people People think that the military is some sort of entity that can just go on and do its work. No, it's not like policemen in the streets. When policemen in the streets see a crime being committed, they don't need to go and ask the governor or the president or anybody. They act immediately. The military is not like that. The military does not move unless the president of Nigeria orders them to move. And so they are going to the east or going to the south earlier on is entirely a product of an order from the president of Nigeria. So don't let us begin to talk of the military as if they are some independent entity.
Would you say that
the military is not an independent entity in any country?
Would you say that Operation Python Dance should be called off?
I think the president needs to look at it. And if I was sitting in front of him, I would say, Mr. President, call this thing off and lead us through peaceful means towards a resolution of the problems of our country. And we can achieve peace. You asked the question earlier on, how do you think the president can do this? And the president has, the president's office did say about 2 weeks ago, oh, the president cannot just dictate restructuring to Nigeria and so on. Yes, that's true. But the president can guide Nigeria along the path to restructuring. When you have come to a point in the life of a country that from all imaginable angles, a request is being made for a particular step, it is incumbent on the rulers of the country to look at it carefully and to attend to it, and not treat it as if it doesn't exist.
Okay.
We saw this example, this type of situation in India after the secession of Pakistan and Bangladesh. There were other nationalities in India that wanted to secede also. And a lot of people who didn't want India to break up then began to demand a restructuring of the federal.
Okay, Prof, you will explain to us, because that restructuring has become like a cliche, but let me allow Mr. Ikechukwu Ikeji to come in on this one. Legally speaking now, the role of the army and in a civil environment like this, what do you think should be happening in terms of what the police should be doing and what the army should be doing and what exactly happened to, not casting blames this time around?
No, but there's no way you would speak without apportioning blames in this scenario. There is no reason for the military to enter into Abia State at all. There is no, there's no breakdown of public order or security that the police cannot handle. You are a journalist, you can testify to that. If you look at section 217 of the Constitution, it lists certain functions of the military, of the army and the other arms of the military. In doing that, it says that the president can decide the operational use of them according to an act by the National Assembly. And the National Assembly has made an act, the Armed Forces Decree, the Armed Forces Now and Act, 1993, under which the operational use of the army will be for the maintenance of public order and public safety and public security. So the question is, was there any apparent, ostensible, clear, unambiguous, or undebatable breakdown of law and order? Or
that's in the Constitution, or did they talk about when there is a situation of insurrection? Is
there an insurrection? Insurrection means simply raising a different opposition force against the state. Yeah. That is insurrection. There is no insurrection.
Okay. Mr. Dafe Akwedeye, as it stands right now, you were sounding a word of caution right now. If we will learn from our history and going forward, the agitation seems to be multifaceted right now. What would you say we should be doing right now? Okay. I guess we're having a... Let me come to you, Professor. I'll come back to you, Mr. Dafe Akwedeye. Restructuring, it seems to be become a cliche, general language now in our political life of recent. But what is at the center of this restructuring? Is devolution of power perhaps the most important thing that we need to be looking at, instead of talking about generalizing the issue of restructuring?
Restructuring is not a cliche at all.
Absolutely.
It is the desire of the hearts of most Nigerians. That's not a cliche. It's the demand of the people.
But the definitions
the people
vary.
have this. Yeah,
the definitions are vary from place to place, from people to people.
No, that's again a misconception. There are different people who have suggestions about how to restructure. Restructure means the same thing. Number one that everybody wants with restructuring is that the powers of the federal government are too much, and they need to be whittled down.
Devolution of power?
You cannot rule a country like Nigeria in the way it is being ruled now, with all the power, all the resource control in one single center called Abuja. It is impossible. It cannot be achieved.
How urgently do you think we can do this?
We need it now.
How do we go about it?
Okay, I will tell, forgive me, I'm a historian, so I look at examples in the past. After the secession of Pakistan and Bangladesh from India, the rest of India was still a very large country, very similar to Nigeria in many respects, about 2,000 ethnic groups. And many of them wanted to control their own lives. They didn't want the central type of government that the British had left for them. Yeah. And so the rulers of the country, especially the Prime Minister, Mr. Nehru, opposed restructuring. Why would he oppose restructuring? He knew that the states that would be created will be ethnic nations, based upon ethnic groups, linguistic groups. And he feared that that would lead to the dissolution of India. So he was opposed. But the people continued to pressurize him. Okay, until in 1953, he had to surrender.
All right. Prof, because of our time, we need to go now. Let me allow Mr. Ikechukwu Ekeji to, just in a statement, constitutionally, where do we go from here?
Let's just call for, like Prof has said, let's just call for restructuring. And how do you call for restructuring? Let's go for self-determination. You can't run away from self-determination. Okay.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we can't get Mr. Dafe Akpede again because of technical issues. Professor Banji Akintoye, many thanks for coming on the program. Mr. Ikechukwu Ikeji, thank you so much. And that's our show for tonight. Many thanks for being part of it, everyone. I'm Sean Akimbale. Bye for now.
We follow the story because we know that an issue is more than a headline. It shows where it all started and where we might be heading, how it all fits together, and why it all comes apart. We follow the story because the need to know never changes. We don't have all the answers, but keeping